Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad you can join us for our CEC virtual business meeting for the month of April. I'd like to take a moment to welcome our translation services, which are available tonight in Russian, Mandarin, and Spanish, and allow them to introduce themselves.
大家好，这边是普通话国语服务，请拨打347-966-4114，并输入 ID 号297-530-115井号。请在这个会议上请保持静音，非常感谢。Yes, the Mandarin announcement has been made. You may now proceed.
Hola, buenas tardes. La interpretación en español, por favor, llamar al número 347-966-4114 y poner el ID de identificación 443-641-362 y símbolo numeral. The Spanish announcement has been made.
Добрый вечер. Для того, чтобы прослушать эту конференцию на русском языке, пожалуйста, наберите.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. You're going to just see our CEC community meeting norms up on the screen just shortly, as you can see now. And just to review those codes of meeting conduct, we have expectations around safety, respect, active listening, and responsibility. Our structure, commenting, and participation at this meeting is that the chat feature will be enabled and disabled throughout our meeting. And when disabled, it is to allow the members and community to successfully engage in active listening. We respect and value community feedback and will always re-enable the chat feature. There's an opportunity to sign up to speak. And that will be listed throughout our meeting in the chat. You can click on the link to sign up to speak at our meeting's end, at the end of our calendar meeting, which follows between 7 and 7:15. The sign up will close at that time and no additional speakers will be added, as we're being mindful and respectful of the time people have dedicated in order to participate. Our goal is always to glean as much feedback from the community as possible. And we ask that when public speaking or commenting in your chat, please be concise, respectful, and no personal agendas. At the end of our meeting, each registered speaker will be allotted 2 minutes for public comment. Please direct any questions you have to CEC31@schools.nyc.gov. Each member has been assigned liaison schools, and that contact information can be found on our website at www.cec31.org. We will also be posting a community feedback survey with their link in the chat, in order to provide an additional opportunity for community building and outreach with you all. I'd like to again thank you all for coming, and I'd like to begin with our call to order at 6:37. Venus, could you do the roll call for us, please?
Iga Ozan.
Present.
Roxanne Mustafa.
Is excused.
Excused. Sarah Blas. Frank Marino.
Present.
Teresa Sorelli.
Present.
James Desiderato.
Present.
Karen Esposito.
Karen Esposito is present. She's having trouble getting her audio to work.
Okay. Daniela Caputo, yes. Venus Z. Zhang.
Thank you, Daniela. Lucia Curatolo Boylan, also present. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Our next order of business is to approve our meeting minutes from March. Teresa Cirilli will kindly be showing them on the screen for everyone to review. These meeting minutes have been circulated to our members prior to this evening's meeting, so they've had a chance to review. And once they've been reviewed, if no amended changes are necessary, I just ask for our members to place their approval in the chat. Thank you so much for your approval, Venus, Teresa, Iga, Frank. Jimmy, Daniela, and Karen. Daniela, thank you so much for helping out Karen. We'll figure it out by the end of the meeting. I promise, Karen, we're glad to have you. Okay, that's it. Our meeting minutes for our business meeting are approved. And I'd like to move now to my president's report. I want to let our council members know that the chancellor is inviting the CEC presidents to our bi-monthly CEC presidents meeting on April 22nd. And I just wanted to bring up for discussion here any issues or pending issues that the council members would like me to highlight with the chancellor. So if my CEC members would be so kind as to unmute and or raise your hand and let me know if there's something specific you would like to be placing on the agenda with the chancellor, please let me know. Guys, don't jump all in at once. It's overwhelming.
Jimmy, did you want to mention anything on the school safety? I know that came up at the presentation that we were at.
Yeah, I was jokingly going to say, how much time do you have? I'm only kidding. Yeah, I mean, I would love to just kind of like just take some time to get my thoughts together and maybe email it out to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of time for us to share. I just figured it would be a nice opening to this discussion here. I got the email in. They've adjusted the dates of the meeting a couple times. So now that I know what it is, I was able to share it with you all. So I figured we could start here with a quick discussion, but feel free to email out, you know, obviously I know our high points and our council highlights that we've been working on throughout the school year. So if there's anything specific that any council member wants me to touch on, or a specific issue that seems to be concerning your schools that you are liaising to on a regular basis, please just keep me posted, and you can do that via email if you guys would prefer it. That's fine. No rush.
Yeah, I'll go into like a little bit of detail in via email, but basically it just has to do with safety. And then, you know, obviously we spoke about the superintendent suspensions.
Yes.
And one of the things that came into light too is the safety transfers and how they're divided up in the district, or in our districts, I should say.
Yes.
So that's a concern, and I can go into more detail.
Yeah, so we've brought up the safety issues and a lot of the ones that we've already done with the counselor to the chancellor directly. I've done that for our council, but the safety transfer is a newer one that we could kind of pinpoint and kind of highlight in a new way, I think. So that's definitely something I can bring up on April 22nd. All right.
Well, thank you.
No, of course. Anyone else?
I just wanted to say that on Staten Island, I don't believe the suspension office is open yet.
It is not. It is not, Daniela. They're still waiting.
Still waiting.
Yeah, we're
almost over. So that's the only thing I would say.
I know it's of great concern, not only to us, but to the superintendent as well. They're working as fast as they can to open it. So it's still pending. The office has been placed, but just not finished yet.
So good evening. If I may just add to that a little bit. So I heard construction is underway. There's a lot of movement because of the bridge prep co-location. So it is a priority. In the last conversation we had with, I believe it was Kevin Moran and Tom Taracco, they're the central points of contact for office and space planning. It's moving along. So I'm so sorry again that it's taking so long, but I heard construction is happening. And what I think they want to do is make sure that if they move an office and the simultaneous opening of the suspension center is kind of all going to work together, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you so much. Iga, you have your hand raised. You can go right ahead.
So I'm not sure whether it is the right place or right time to raise this issue, but I've been following the news about the budget cuts.
The budget cuts have been a big topic of discussion.
So last week, I think there are some protests going on in Albany. And I think as a council, maybe we can also, raise some awareness about it.
Yes, we can. And I want to share, the chancellor was kind enough to do a very kind of concise budget planning presentation for CEC presidents that I'm going to share with all of you. Once they circulate it out to the rest of us, that'll be shared with the entire team so that you can see the current breakdown of where the budget is going and where they currently allocate their funds to, so we can get a better understanding of it. And they discussed the fact that we are going to be losing our federal funding and how those budget cuts are going to play out. And the budget has not passed. The city is still delayed on their budget passing. The governor has not, is moving it along, so it's going to be delayed, which may be to our advantage. Yeah, thank you so much. That's a great topic to bring up. Anyone else on the council? Venus has her hand raised. Go ahead, Venus.
I know this is not popular, but can we bring back merit-based GNT tests so that, you know, the decision isn't based on pre-K teachers or 3K teachers?
Got it. So you're looking specifically for merit-based GNT testing for pre-K and K?
Yeah, and possibly even 6th grade honors classes.
Okay, and 6th grade honors.
Thanks.
Popular, remember,
So
popular is
district-wide, we are working on some honors classes and offerings outside of the screened programs. So that's something definitely, Venus, if you want to check back with either Christina or I, we can talk to you about some of those plans that are happening that we discussed with Paul, and we opened it up with some of our middle school counterparts. So I can definitely, let's schedule some time to chat.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. Anyone else before we move forward? Okay, I'm going to move forward then and talk about a new bill that was introduced in the Assembly that would have a set minimum of safety standards and best practices for securing school buildings as per state of politics. And in the chat will be placed the article that you guys can kind of peruse at your leisure to learn more about what that bill proposes for everyone. In addition, the Office of School Wellness Programs, in partnership with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, is creating videos and resources to support parents and caregivers in having important age-appropriate conversations with children of all ages about growing up, body changes, and human sexuality. If you are a parent or caregiver of a child in an NYC Dewey public school, they're inviting you to an optional virtual group discussion that's occurring this Tuesday, April 4th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. They are looking for honest feedback about what would be most useful to you, your family, and your children specifically. If you're interested in joining this optional group discussion, they would like you to register as soon as possible. Again, that date is Tuesday, April 4th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. for a virtual Zoom link, and the registration link will be placed in the chat. Spanish interpretation will be available for that meeting as well. I'd also like to let everyone know that the CEC elections application period has closed. Currently, Staten Island has 49 candidates running for this council's seats for the 2023 to 2025 school years. This Tuesday, April 4th, very popular date, will be our candidate forums where members of this council and newly appointed people vying for positions on next year's council will have an opportunity to discuss their views and their reasoning for joining the council. We hope that you will be able to join that forum, and we encourage all of our parents and guardians to have them registered with their own NISCA accounts so that they can vote, as there will be 2 votes per every household. Each guardian has their own NICSA account that allows them to vote, and that begins on April 21st through May 9th. We hope that you will go to the CEC profiles and look at all the upcoming candidates, including some of the members on our council here are rerunning for a seat for next year. You can also look at the schools.nyc.gov/elections 2023 to find all of the information I've just discussed. And again, look at your NYC schools account for more information about registering with your NICSA account so that your vote counts. Remember, every voice matters, and the district would like to hear your feedback on who you would like to be a parent advocate for you. As a further update to the October 24th 2022 message regarding CEC meetings, the local state of emergency declared by the mayor to address the COVID-19 pandemic has been extended through April 20th, 2023. In an update for our council members, we've selected Leah Stump as our new AA, as you guys have all known. The offer has been made from HR to her, and now we're waiting to find out whether or not the offer will be accepted and when her placement and training can begin. On that note of CEC administrative assistants, there's a new bargaining platform that the administrative assistants will be considered part of the CEC31 collective bargaining unit. And we're anticipating that AAs will receive further notification about this change this week. They're going to reach out from the district virtually on April 27th at 6 p.m. to discuss that representation from their Office of Labor Relations with the CECs and answer any questions that we may have. And I'll share that link when it goes out. Currently, our application window is open for anyone interested in running for the parent representative seat on the panel for education policy. The deadline to submit this application is April 15th, and we ask if you'd be interested in finding out more information on the PEP. You can visit PEP Parent Applications at schools.nyc.gov. And again, that link will be placed in the chat, so you'll be able to click and find out more about what it means to sit on the panel for education policy on Staten Island and represent parent voice there. Applications for the vacancy on our council have closed. We've received one application to date, and we'll discuss it at this meeting amongst council members. We're also excited to share that offers for kindergarten programs will be released on Tuesday, April 4th, and offers for middle school will be released on Tuesday, April 25th. Both of these will be released on after school hours. You can access the information for where your child has been selected to attend by going to myschools.nyc.gov or going to a family welcome center here on Staten Island. It's located at the Patrides Educational Complex in Building A, or by calling 718-935-2009. And that will conclude my president's report for our business meeting. I'm going to move now and ask for any council members to share any feedback from their liaison schools that they've been able to attend and give us some information. Any updates from council members, just feel free to raise your hand or just unmute. I would love to share an update regarding our brand new beautiful school opening with our TWILs and PS 85. Where am I? I just want to pull it up. So sorry, guys. I just want to pull up my notes. I'm so sorry. I want to talk about our Future Ready NYC, where 34 schools competed for the spot. And we had an opportunity to have 60 classrooms being allowed to be part of that. And New Dorp was considered part of Future Ready, and the youth apprenticeship here at Concord was also made available for our schools. Camore School literally is having their opening. I'm so sorry, guys. I feel like I can't speak. They're having the naming ceremony for their school. It was unfortunately delayed, but the official launch of the school will come in the next following weeks, and he will keep us posted on what that looks like. The school is thriving right now, and collaboration is really happening between their D75 co-located school among them and with TWILs. There is concerns that the school is running out of room at a quick pace, And while SEA planned for that building to essentially transition, or TWILS to transition from that school within 4 years, it's looking more like 2 or 3. And I've reached out to planning in order to make sure that they are going to expedite the transition of that school and try to find more space. So we'll see how that pans out. Any other members with highlights that they would like to share? Anyone? I don't see any hands raised.
I don't have any updates, just, some agenda items, some things that I wanted to just bring up, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Go right ahead, Jimmy. The floor is yours.
Which is a scary thought, but anyway, so, a couple of things. So something that came across my email from a parent was about the possibility of these new books, kindergarten books that was apparently adopted according to this author. I'm trying to get the validity of it, but according to her, the New York City Department of Education has adopted her book called "These Are My Eyes" for kindergarten students. And the title is "These Are My Eyes, This Is My Nose, These Are My Toes, This Is My Vulva." So it goes into a lot of different inappropriate things for kindergarten kids. It talks about how not all boys have penises, not all girls have vaginas, and gender pronouns and such. It does, in fairness, because of course, I bought and read the book. So it does go into some kids with disabilities, so it's not all terrible, but it really is disturbing as a whole. So I did reach out to see if the validity of the book, but I just wanted to let parents know about this, and to basically go to your PTAs, go to your SLTs, and see if this is something that pops up. It's apparently supposed to circulate in April of this month, and then fully adopted in September of the fall. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then another thing that was brought up this past week or a couple weeks ago was the UFT held a seminar of the harmful effects of whiteness. And to be honest with you, I think we should request, and I reached out to UFT for explanation. And we should really request a rep from the UFT to explain it and understand, and actually obtain a copy of the seminar to see exactly what this is. Because if this is something the UFT gave, now granted the UFT members had to pay for this seminar, so it wasn't like a blasted free seminar out there, so you had to pay for it. And this is something that UFT members, which is the teachers of our schools, to our children, are possibly, getting this, doing this seminar, and I guess how they adopt it into their classroom. I really don't know. So this is something that we need to get a better understanding of, and to possibly have a UFT rep, somebody from the UFT come to our meeting to explain why that seminar is important and exactly what it means.
I mean,
And
I was going to say, so we're very lucky to have a UFT representative always at every one of our CEC meetings, and that representative is Marie Rodriguez. I don't know if she's able to speak directly to this, because I don't believe I think the workshop that you were talking about it was offered virtually, right? It wasn't specific for Staten Island.
No, I from what I understand, and granted, these are things that come out in news articles, so that's why I always say, even with the book, it's making sure, for us, it's making sure the validity of it before we understand it. But
Yeah, we don't want to heighten awareness of something that may not actually be of concern for our particular constituency of people on Staten Island. Marie has her hand raised, so I'm sure Marie would love to discuss this more. Marie, please go ahead and unmute. We're so glad to have you here. Thank you, as always, for attending our meetings and being an outreach to us. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you. You're a lovely human being, as I always think. But listen, I wanted to say that you are correct. I am not the right person to speak to on this. However, we do have someone coming on, Sean Ramos. He's our district rep. He did prepare something. So I guess he's probably still en route on his way home, because he's driving into Jersey. but I'm gonna text him, and I would love if you would give him a chance to speak with this further when he's on. I'll put it in the chat that he's on, and then you can let him take it away. But thank you, and Jimmy, thank you for giving the UFT the opportunity to speak and dispel some of the myths that were in the newspapers. So as soon as he's with us, I will let you guys know.
He's actually just with us now. That's so
Oh,
funny.
cool.
I think I just saw him in. Hang on a second. I just see him. Yep, I see him. We'll give him a few moments to get connected.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lucia.
No problem, Marie. In the meantime, again, I don't know if we don't have any proof that at this time that book that Jimmy has spoken about is being circulated to our schools here at District 31. And perhaps someone from the district could speak a little bit more towards that. As far as I know, that was just through a Twitter article that author.
Yeah, so good evening. So yeah, I totally agree with you, President Borland. So we don't know, we have not been giving a list of books that are coming out, but what Christine Chavez, my deputy superintendent, did do, we immediately escalated it to the Office of Teaching and Learning, Jimmy, as soon as we got wind of it, to have them look at it and vet it and to see the contents of it. We're also going to include Dr. Liz. She's our Office of Health counterpart as well, because I think some of it may deal with health, but we did escalate it to Lucius Young and his team earlier today. And as soon as we hear anything back, we'll share with you and the team.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. I truly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Sean, I don't know if you're able to unmute.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can. Thank you so much for joining us as well. So, Sean, we were just discussing the UFT virtual workshop that was offered, and Marie was so kind to say that you might have something that you can share with us and the other attendees for our meeting tonight regarding that virtual workshop.
Absolutely. So the workshop, all these workshops that most of the workshops that the UFT gives are for continuing education credit. Pedagogues, guidance counselors, etc. They have to earn a certain amount of continuing credit hours. There's a cycle of every 5 years, folks have to do this. The particular workshop, I'm assuming we're talking about the weight of whiteness workshop. That particular workshop is, as far as I understand, was being given for the continuing education credits, and it was being given for guidance counselors to comprehend and be more sensitive to the lens which certain student populations are viewing the world. Members had reached out to the UFT concerned about the workshop, and it was canceled.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sean. We truly appreciate your insight, and thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I just want to
Oh,
say
yeah,
thank
go ahead, Jimmy. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay. No, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it. When I reached out to Marie, and she was so kind. So I always want to give people, the opportunity to speak. For us to just sit here and speculate and to talk, and it's not a soapbox for us here at the council. It's really to get answers. It's not to surprise anybody or get everybody off their.
No, you're completely right.
Thanks for bringing up the concern. I hope it's okay if I just say that, when you work in schools, you're dealing with, just like life, you're dealing with a myriad of personalities and a myriad of issues that people are bringing into buildings, and some of the experiences that people have had in their lives are very different than the experience that I had or you had, and that's why these workshops, not particularly just this one, but there are plenty of workshops that just try to give a world view, or like I said, a different lens on what people are experiencing. And it's one of the tools that I think all educators need. We can't be only using our own background to teach. In order to get through to students, we have to not only have content knowledge, but we also have to be able to view their lives and have sensitivity to it, and incorporate it into what we're doing as educators. And
Thank you so much, Sean. Iga, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
So I don't want to start a big discussion out of this, but I'm really want to know what is so disturbing about, vulva or penis, because that's also part of our bodies. And I think isn't that good that actually students just start learning instead of just keeping in a black box. And I think someone also was asking about that concern in the chat as well. So I'm just saying this because since we are recording, I also want to everyone know that not everyone is on the same page about those concerns or ideas that Jimmy raised.
I would also like to just say, in reference to the book, while I think it's important for the district to review age appropriateness for our children, regardless, it is recommended by the American Pediatric Association and through the American Psychology Network as well, that that children who are able to properly identify their sexual organs, while I know this is a taboo topic, are often less likely to experience sexual abuse and are able to defend themselves from sexual abuse as well. So it's important to highlight that there is a health aspect to knowing proper body parts and names. And again, it's not a discussion necessarily as a council that we can weigh in on what that age appropriate age is or when that should be distributed to families. It is something that the district talks about and that they elicit parent feedback on, which is exactly the reason why they just held that the forum that I was asking about that's open on April 4th. Those health discussions are ongoing with families, parents, and the district teachers and professionals in their fields in order to properly decide how to go about curriculum. So I don't want anyone to think that our council is falling on any one side or another. It's merely parent feedback, and all parent feedback is important.
I agree. I'll be just honest. This is my personal opinion. It's not an opinion of any council members. I don't speak upon any council members. I only speak about myself. And some parents that come to my attention. But to me, as a pre-K parent, I would rather discuss that stuff at my home and then not in school with other kids. Knowing their body parts is two separate things than teaching them that, other things than that. I mean, I'm not looking to get into a back and forth. I just understand that I respect everybody else's opinion and
So it's one of those things, I can just chime in one quick second, just like when they had the HIV curriculum when I was a principal, parents had the opportunity to write in and have their children not participate. So Jimmy, always know as a parent, you have so much rights and privileges. Even when we have a touchy subject, whether a play or a book or some encounter that children may have with sensitive content that may be too mature, we always give parents, and if schools aren't doing that, you have to let me know, but we always try to give parents that option. So we hear you. I still escalated because if there's a concern that comes in, again, Sean, you said it so beautifully, it is about multiple perspectives. So we value your perspective, Jimmy, and that's the reason why I escalated it. But if it does still come out, that's why I have Dr. Liz, who's our health representative from Central on our team. But also parents don't have to have their child participate if there is a lesson about it. You always can exercise your right to write a letter to have your child not be a part of those conversations.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you all. So I'd like to move now to our council member vacancy application review. Teresa, if you wouldn't mind just sharing that on the screen. We had one person vie for a seat for Chantal Cabrera's vacant seat now on our CEC. That member would be joining us for our May and June meetings only. And we were lucky enough to have actually a previous council member, Jennifer Marrero, apply for the seat. So she is well informed about what CEC does and has sat in this seat before 2 years prior. So I'll just give everyone a quick chance to review it now. Again, her children attend PS 65. They're both general education students. You can see the application is not too intense. And then I think there's just one other page.
One sec, let me just flip back.
Yeah, no problem. They sent it in 2 separate images, guys. I'm sorry.
It's saying I don't have access to the other image.
Oh, how I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I had access just to the first one, but the second one says
It
I
must
just
have not.
sent you a request for it.
Yeah, it must have not clicked. Let me just refresh and I'll put it in for you. Yeah. Of course, that's the page that we need. Refreshing. And it should be shared now, I hope. There you go. Access
Okay.
update.
Yes, I have it.
Thanks.
Wait. No, it said denied again, but I still.
Oh, no, you're showing it. You're showing it right now.
Oh, you can see it?
Yeah, we can see it. Or no, I'm holding it. I'm seeing it.
Oh, okay, hang on. I was like, wait, I'm not sharing it.
I was like,
Here we
wait.
go.
I got excited for a second. I was looking at the wrong thing.
Technical difficulties. All right, I got it. There we go.
Thank you so much. So Jennifer currently holds no school positions or education council positions. Again, she's a past member of CEC31, as well as a past member of the SLT at PS65. She is interested in helping to make schools safer and more educational for children to thrive and succeed in life. Aside from my personal interactions with her on our previous council and the limited amount of people that applied for our vacant seat, I do want to let everyone know that she would be an excellent addition to our council if everyone is inclined to extend that invitation to her. If council members don't think that they would like to invite Jennifer to join us for those 2 months remaining, we can reopen the application window up for other applicants if you guys would like. But that's up to you guys. So I'll just open it up to discussion for our council members now really quickly. Any council members with any strong feelings regarding this application or the potential of having Jennifer join us? And I want to remind everybody that the vacancy was circulated for a full month.
It sounds like she'd be a great addition, and I love that she's already has that past experience that she'd be bringing back, even if it's only for a short time.
Agreed. Thank you so much. Anyone else? I think Iga put it in the chat. He thinks she would be a good candidate. Any other council members with any opposition to maybe extending an invitation to Jennifer to join us? Great. Venus has no opposition either. So if that's the case, what I'll do is we'll begin the resolution process on offering Jennifer a seat to have her help us fill out our council for May and June. So hopefully we'll be able to extend that invite out to her and we'll get the resolution passed at our next meeting and we'll take an official vote on whether or not we can welcome her. But I didn't want to have that discussion until we actually got a chance to review her. So thank you to my council members for looking it over. And then I'll move to the next part of our agenda, which is new business. Anyone with new business to discuss? I'm not seeing any hands. I'm not hearing any unmuting. No new business. And so then if I could ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Teresa. Do I have a second for that motion?
I second that motion.
Thank you so much, Venus. So I would like to have us adjourn now. The time is 7:12. We're going to take a brief pause and I'll have everybody resume for our calendar meeting at 7:15. Thank you everyone for your patience and for joining us on our discussions for our business meeting. We'll see you at the calendar shortly. All right, I'd love to welcome everyone back for our CEC calendar meeting for the month of April. And I'd like to just take a moment to introduce and thank our translation services team for joining us tonight. We have translation available in Russian Mandarin, and Spanish for any of our attendees. I'll turn it over to them now.
La interpretación en español será dada si llaman al número de teléfono 347-966-4114 y poniendo el número de identificación 443-641-362, numeral. The Spanish interpretation guidelines has been done.
Thank you.
Для того, чтобы прослушать этот семинар на русском языке, пожалуйста, наберите 347-966-4114. Еще раз 347-966-4114 и введите ID 306-058-726 решетка. 306-058-726 решетка. Спасибо. Thank you.
大家晚上好，要说中文的家长请拨打电话347-966-4114，然后输入会议 ID 297-530-115，井号键。再说一次，今天晚上要说中文的家长请拨打电话347-966-4114，然后输入会议 ID 297-530-115，井号键。当你接通电话之后，记得要关闭和静音你在手机上的声音和话筒，然后记得要关闭在手机上的话筒，这样可以把背景噪音降到最小。Thank you, and down you may proceed.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone again. The time is 7:18. If Teresa, you could just put up again our codes of conduct for everyone to be aware of at our meeting. So our codes of conduct have expectations at our meeting regarding safety, respect, active listening, and responsibility. We want to let everyone know at the meeting that our chat feature will be enabled and disabled throughout our meeting. When it is disabled, it's to allow the members and community to engage in active listening. We respect and value community feedback and will always re-enable our chat feature. There is an opportunity to speak at this meeting. You can register prior to signing up for the meeting, and you can also register via a link, which Teresa will be placing in the chat now as well, for you to register to speak at the end of our meeting for 2 minutes. We also have a community feedback survey, and that link will be posted throughout our meeting as well. Anyone who is unable to comply with our codes of conduct will be removed by our parliamentarian. And if you have any questions, we always ask that you direct them to us at CEC31@schools.nyc.gov. And we want everyone here to know that each council member has been assigned a liaison school throughout our district, and that contact information can always be found on our website at www.cec31.org. There you'll be able to find more information about the CEC, things throughout our district, as well as updates that we share at these meetings here. We also want to encourage everyone to upload the District 31 app that's available at your Google and Apple Play Store. It's an informative space for everyone to get updates directly from the district itself. So if you've not uploaded that app, we encourage you to do so. I would love to do a call to order and a roll call. So Venus, if I could turn it over to you.
Yes, Lucia Cartola Boylan,
Present.
Iga Ozen,
Present.
Sarah Blas, Roxanne Mustafa,
Excused.
Frank Marino,
Present.
Teresa Sorelli,
Present.
James Desiderato,
Present.
Karen Esposito,
Present, but she has audio problems.
Thank
Daniela
you.
present,
Present.
Vina Zizang present.
I'd like to just let everybody know before we continue, we were able to, thanks to the partnership that Teresa Surley has with Eden 2, this evening, we are lucky enough to have the executive director for Eden 2 programs joining us, Dr. Joanne, I want to say it correctly, I believe it's Garanzer, will be joining us this evening to speak on Eden 2, as well as our other two speakers. So just a little highlight for that. Okay. I'd love to approve our meeting minutes for calendar from last March, or from March, I should say, not last March, geez. Teresa will be sharing them on the screen. I want to let our audience members know that these minutes have been circulated to our CEC members prior to this evening's meeting. Council members, as we scroll through, if there's any adjustments or amendments to be made, please just let us know. If not, then I would just ask that you place your approval for those minutes in the chat. And just a reminder to everyone that the District 31 app, the link is also in our chat for anyone. Thank you to Iga, thank you to Teresa, thank you Frank, thank you Venus, thank you Daniela and Karen. And with that, we have enough to approve our meeting minutes for the calendar month of March. Thank you so much. I want to just turn really quickly and talk on a heavier subject just for a minute. I want to address the latest school shooting that's occurred. While this trauma rests heavy on all of our hearts, we want to assure our Staten Island families that this council is dedicated to ensuring safer school communities. Our council is actively asking legislators to act in the best interests of students and overall school safety. We've posted resolutions on necessary safety precautions throughout the city and are working hand in hand with the DA's office. We've pushed the PEP to pass contracts to include locked doors at every NYC public school, and we're working on a suspension resolution as well. There is no topic unturned when it comes to safety that our council is not actively engaged on. Our advocacy for safer schools is ongoing and will not stop until we feel our children are truly protected from events like the tragic one in Nashville. Our hearts go out to the families and loved ones of all of those taken far too soon. So if we could just have a moment of silence for that, I would really appreciate it. And then we'll continue our meeting. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to talk about Awareness Month for April. This month, we promote awareness with the Lighted Up Blue that happens on April 2nd for autism awareness. Major progress has been made in increasing awareness and acceptance of autism, not least thanks to the many amazing autistic advocates who have worked tirelessly to bring the lived experiences of autistic people to the wider world. We highlight that work, especially tonight with some of our guest speakers this evening. Also, the American Counseling Association has named April Counseling Awareness Month. We're raising awareness and promoting mental health for people of all ages. It also highlights the importance of counseling professionals, from mental health counselors, school and college counselors, substance abuse counselors to career counselors. It's the time when their contributions not only to healthcare sector, but also to society in general are honored. This celebration also eradicates the stigma of seeking help from mental illnesses. The professionals are here to help, and it doesn't make anyone less of a person to ask for guidance. And our council is fully backing of our students and families seeking counseling when they need it. And so we have a speaker here tonight on that issue as well. I'd like to inform families, as part of my president's report, that a new bill was introduced into the Assembly and would have a set of minimum safety standards and best practices for securing school buildings as per the state of politics. And Teresa is just going to share that in the chat for me. And that just highlights back to our original discussion. So with that, I'd like to move to our presentations for this evening. And our first presentation is going to be with Brian Licata. I just want to make sure, and Kathy Del Priori from the Grace Foundation. I'm going to have them, if I can open it up. Here we go. And make sure that they can co-host. Give me just a moment. Brian, you should be able to share your screen now.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm so excited about the project that the Grace Foundation is working on, and I'm excited for you to share it with our community. Thank you for joining us.
So before we begin, I would love to take credit, but this is a conglomeration of about, I don't know, about 70 different nonprofits. While the Grace Foundation is participating in it, it is not something that just the Grace Foundation is running. Eden 2, On Your Mark. We have Crossroads. I think we have A Very Special Place, and Lifestyles for Disabled, and other nonprofits. This was something that started about 3 or 4 years ago, and then due to COVID, we weren't able to go out in public and do things together. This got put on hold, and back around Thanksgiving, Eric from the Ferry Hawks had reached out and said, we want to do something special for Autism Awareness Month. What's something that we could do that would involve the community? So we kind of resurrected this idea of doing a autism acceptance event involving schools, nonprofits, businesses, and just trying to get everybody out so that we would have something very positive in the newspaper. And the idea was, what if we broke a world record? For those of you that aren't really aware, the only world record that has ever been broke on Staten Island is for the largest dump. So we actually don't have anything that's very positive. So we said, what if we came together and formed a puzzle piece? Because there is actually a world record for the largest human puzzle piece. Back in about 2019, somewhere in Greece, they broke the record with about 1,700 people. So the idea, and I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay, you should all be able to see this. The idea is at the Ferry Hawk Stadium to have somewhere more than 1,700 people form one gigantic puzzle piece. Human puzzle piece, which sounds like a silly record, but there's a lot of silly records out there. So the idea is to bring together all of these different nonprofits that work with young adults, children, and those that are living with autism and their families, to pull together schools and the community at large to show that this is something where we're all connected and have support. So far, we have about 2,000 plus people confirmed for the event. We have great participation from District 75. We have participation from some of the District 31 schools, elementary, middle school, and high school. We have about 70 nonprofits that are participating. We also have a lot of businesses that are helping make sure this is a free event, very inclusive, so that nobody cannot attend due to money. So what we're planning on doing is it's twofold. April 19th, we are going to gather as many people as possible at the Ferry Hawk Stadium off of Bay Street. We are going to have activities, carnival rides, the big blow-ups, things for people to do. And then we're going to form one gigantic puzzle piece. It's almost akin to taking the graduation photo where they usher everybody into the shape and then it's done. And then everyone can go back and play on the rides and everything else until they leave. April 29th, we are going to have an Autism Appreciation Night at the Ferry Hawks. We've been selling tickets to the game. We've actually sold almost 4,000 tickets to the Ferry Hawks game for that night. And there will be all different things happening. Some of our young adults will be throwing out first pitches, singing the national anthem, take me out to the ball game, or just even interviewing people and being up on the Jumbotron, like it was a real Major League Baseball game. I'll share this in the chat in a few seconds, but you can see that we have a lot of different participating organizations. We have all of these different businesses that are sponsoring us. Very happy to say that groups like NICET are sponsoring some of the local schools so that they can attend. We also have Dependable Auto and a few other places that were very specific and wanted to sponsor schools. We have a lot of businesses that are taking out signage and large puzzle pieces. Our goal is to get as many people to the event as possible. one of the things when we first planned this was we planned it for April 19th, and I'm sure many of you know it's the state ELA test. But we were targeting high school students, first and second graders, and District 75 students. We needed to coincide with Ferry Hawk's schedule, so we really didn't have a lot of wiggle room because we needed to make this happen prior to the season kicking off on the 28th. So what we're looking for is any family members that are free that day and would love to come out. We'd like to have you. We've had some very generous donations, so we're not charging for people that want to come on the 19th. Any schools that want to send some of their first, second graders or high school students, or if any schools have a list of students who are not taking the state, they've opted out, and they'd like to come to this event, love to have them. And then on the 29th, we're selling tickets. The tickets are 2 tickets for $30. You get to come to the event and participate. But our goal was to do a kickoff. And, you know, Teresa's here tonight. Teresa's vital in Eden 2 and the work that they do. And we want to make April every year have a special event, you know, almost our own walk or rally. This will be the only time that we probably do something like this with the world record. But there are a lot of records that we can break. So if we wanted to keep doing this every year, we could, you know, we can find things that would be fun. But if there are any parents or family members or anybody that would like to attend, I'll drop my information in. We have a link where you can attend the event for free. As I said, if you'd like to attend the game, unfortunately, the Ferry Hawks are very accommodating, but they charge us for the game tickets. So we have to kind of relay that. This is not a fundraiser. No one is making any money off of this event. We're literally running this event on the goodwill from the sponsors and nonprofits that are participating. But that's kind of the event in a nutshell. And you know, if anybody has any questions they'd like to throw out, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'm so excited. I will definitely be joining you on the 19th. I can't
I don't
wait.
know if this is wrong to say, Dr. Wilson, but I'm pulling my kids out of school that day. So I'm going to bring my kids. You know, everybody else is welcome to do that, but you know, you got to deal with some people.
I'd like to open it up to any council members with any questions. I'm hoping I'll be able to be there at the event with some more of my CEC members who are able to come. Any CEC members with questions?
No questions, but can't wait. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for including Eden also.
Thank you, Teresa,
Oh,
for your
great.
amazing work and partnership as well. We're so lucky to have you as part of our council. I'm going to open it up to the public. Any questions for Brian and the Puzzle for Autism event?
No questions for me. Just thank you. Awesome event. I hope I can attend. And you do you. You do whatever you got to do.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. All right, I'd love to then move on to our next speaker for the evening, and great thanks to the Grace Foundation, to Kathy Delpiri and Brian Licata for joining us. We're so excited for your event and glad that we could showcase it here at CEC31. I'm gonna invite our presentation on Eden 2 with Dr. Joanne Berenser, and I'm gonna just make sure she is co-host so that she can share her screen. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're really excited to hear about the wonderful work that Eden 2 does with our autism community in Staten Island.
Great, thanks. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be as fun as talking about a puzzle piece, breaking world records, but I'll do my best. Okay, so I'm just going to go through. I'm not going to talk about every slide. I'll just go through it because I just really want to be able to answer questions if anybody has any. So let me just make sure this works. Guess I'll just do it this way. Can you see the slide? The slides okay? Yep. So, you know, there's obviously a lot of information about autism, which I'll start with before I jump into what we do at Eden 2. I think probably the most important fact up here is that when I started in 1982, the incidence of autism was 1 in every 2,500 children, or 4 in 10,000. In 2020, it had skyrocketed to 1 in 54, And as I finished editing the presentation, the CDC in 2023 came out with 1 in 36. So the numbers are really rising. The need for services is just great, you know, between all the programs, and there still are needs, right? I know there are waiting lists right now to try and get preschoolers in. So it's just growing and growing and growing. You know, Eden 2 serves primarily individuals on the more severe end of the autism spectrum. And all of our programs since we started in 1976 are based on the principles of applied behavior analysis. You know, what ABA looked like in 1982 is nothing like what ABA looks like in 2023. You know, thankfully, as we grew, the science grew, and it has just become so much more than it was back when I first started in the 80s. Again, like I said, I'm just going to go through this quickly and answer questions if you have them. So the mission for Eden 2, one of the things I love about being at Eden 2 is that we always say when we accept a child, we accept their family, right? It's our mission is to support people with autism throughout their lives so that they can achieve their full potential through service, science, and passion. And so really for families that need Eden 2 for the entire lifespan of their loved one, that's what we're there for. And so we do operate a whole bunch of different programs. These numbers are a little bit out of date now. This graphic was done a couple years ago, so we are serving more, but just to kind of focus in on what we do. You know, we have residences. I think we have 7 residences on Staten Island now for our adults. We have preschool and a lot of See It and Sets programs. We have our teenager and adolescent program at Beach Street, which focuses significantly on adaptive behavior and independence, job training, etc. And obviously we have a number of adult programs as well, which I'll talk about in a second. So the preschool serves kids just like any other preschool from ages 3 to 5. Again, it does rely on the principles of ABA. We have in the program, we serve kids in 6 ratio, 8 ratio, and 12 ratio. So we have a couple of 12 to 1 to 2 classrooms, and the primarily are the 6s for the kids that have pretty significant autism. Beach Street, as I said, is our sort of our headquarters. What's unique about this building is we really don't have traditional classrooms. In the building, we have things like apartment classrooms. So, you know, the kids, if they're going to work on putting clothes away in their dresser, they will do it in a bedroom. If they're going to work on making a bed, it'll be in a bedroom. We have a laundry center. If they're going to learn how to do laundry, they're going to do it in our laundry center. So it's really geared towards making sure that our individuals, when they age out of our program, are as independent as they can possibly be. Let's see. We have 2 different day rehabilitation programs, which is what our adults participate in. So it's over 21, you enter, if you need that level of programming, you can enter into our day hab program, which is over right now on Wright Avenue, or you can enter into our day hab without walls, which is for individuals that are really not needing as much structure as the traditional center-based day hab program. As part of our day hab without walls, we opened a thrift store. It's called Encore Everything Kids. It basically is a thrift store that sells children's clothing and toys ages under 10 years of age. We're just getting that up and running again. It kind of all came closing down after COVID. We have a large family support program. Oh, the other thing I didn't have in here is we also opened a new business called Success Looms. So our kids are, they love using the weaving, and they'll make all sorts of really cool things that right now is primarily being distributed via Etsy because we don't have our storefront. So we have a large set of family support programs, and you don't have to be an Eden 2 student to participate in our after school programs or our adult rec programs. We have a crisis intervention program, respite summer camp. Again, these are for anybody that is getting OPWDD services. So that's pretty much what we do. You know, I'm kind of leaving it open to answer any questions about either about Eden 2 or about autism. I'm going to stop sharing so I can answer questions.
I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight and then highlight the wonderful work that Eden 2 does for our community. We want to promote all kinds of awareness and connectivity here with CEC31. So we can't thank you enough for joining us, Doctor.
Yeah, no
I'm
problem.
going to open it up first to our CEC members. Any CEC members with questions regarding the Eden 2 programs? You guys can unmute or just raise your hand. Teresa, do you want to share some highlights of what your work has been like with them for us?
No pressure. No, I love sharing everything that Joanne had just mentioned in the Zoom room. I get the opportunity to take all of that information and pull that out of Eden and share that with the entire borough. So hopefully just spreading more awareness, not only in the month of April during Autism Awareness Month, but year round.
I agree. I think sometimes, very often on Staten Island, we have so many services available, but often families feel like they're lost and they don't know exactly where to turn. So anytime we can highlight and showcase some of the good work that is available to families here, we always want to take the opportunity to do so. I'd love to open it up to the audience for anyone with questions for Eden 2, for Dr. Joanna Gersner.
Joanne, it looks like you might have a recruit in the chat. Somebody's pursuing their BCBA.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, anybody that needs a job, we're always looking.
I love the storefront idea and that you guys are going to return to it after COVID. Are you looking for an actual brick and mortar storefront as well, or are you going to keep it mostly to Etsy?
No, so we actually have a brick and mortar storefront that we had to shut down with COVID for the children's clothing. But we are going to start looking at some place to bring our Success Looms things into. We are hopefully looking at a new building that we might expand to.
That's amazing. I love the idea of them weaving and using the loom. It made me excited as a kid when they had it in my arts program at school in junior high. And I think it's amazing that they're actually able to make products that they're actually able to sell. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. The repetition of it is really calming for a lot of our kids. They just enjoy it.
It is. It's just, this is why people knit and do crochet as well. You can't stop yourselves. It's a very Zen place, people. If you've not tried it, please try. You have tons of comments in the front, in the chat, just giving big glows to your work here. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor. We look forward to learning more about Eden 2, and we'll have that information available on our website. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, and then I'm going to move to our last speaker of the evening. Nick Tambora is here from the Jewish Board of Family and Children's Services to discuss counseling options for families on Staten Island. So Nick, I'm going to find you and have you share your screen, make you a co-host. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you making the time for us this evening.
Absolutely, not a problem. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Tambora. I am a licensed mental health counselor. I've been a clinician and a social worker for Jewish Board for about 10 years. So I've gotten to know our services pretty well, and happy to talk about a little bit of what we offer and what's kind of happening for the agency, hopefully by the end of this year. So I'm going to share my screen. And part of what I wanted to do, just with the time that I have, was to give a little bit about the program that I operate under, which is a school-based program, very unique circumstance that's part of a new venture for mental health agencies, as well as a little bit of kind of why it's important for us to try and really emphasize some mental health concerns and considerations for families, and then a big scope of what are some of the Jewish Board services that are currently being offered. So I'm going to just share my screen in a second. So hopefully everybody might be able to see this.
You're good.
Okay. So, oops. Sorry, I just gotta set it up. All right. So Jewish Board, as you might know, is as of 2015, the largest human services agency in New York State. It's one of the largest mental health and social service nonprofits across the country, servicing all 5 boroughs, and program I am a part of, as well as 2 other school sites here, is this initiative called the Prevention Intervention Program. PIP is basically an on-site clinical service that provides supportive counseling to students, crisis intervention, and support for staffs, and provides also an alternative to the use of 911 in response to behavioral escalations, or a report of self-injury, or a report of suicidal ideation. Not every crisis warrants a hospital visit, as any mental health professional will tell you, that part of often appropriate interventions and support for children experiencing mental health crisis might first involve what are the resources immediately available to that child's environment. So if you have an informed clinician that can provide some of that support on site, it can often alleviate some of the further harm that can happen when a child is brought to a hospital. Psychiatric ERs, even with the best resources available, the best environment available, can be very traumatizing and can further some of the harm of preventing a child or a teenager from really talking further about it, because sometimes school systems might resort to first using 911 as their immediate tool belt of responses. Same thing also with behavioral escalations. So if a child or a teenager is maybe having a fight or having a confrontation with staff, part of PIP's program is to provide an alternative for de-escalation by having an on-site clinician and to offer support and to facilitate a way of resolving the conflict without it ever needing the interaction of school safety or law enforcement. Once a teen has an interaction with law enforcement, that greatly increases the risk for future 911 calls and law enforcement interactions. So we have 3 sites on Staten Island. We have more in Queens. We're building this program out. We're very excited to see where this program can go. There are other agencies that also have their own PIPs across the Staten Island, but for ours, we have 3 sites on Susan Wagner High School, Tottenville High School, and IS-51. These services are free, intended to be short-term. So short-term for clinically is 12 to 15 weeks. And through that, it's supportive counseling, group counseling, family supportive counseling, coaching, which is helping staff learn a little bit more about mental health services, and to see from there how they can empower other staff to learn the ropes and having more informed conversations about mental health. Part of why I wanted to just cover a little bit of mental health 101 is just that, unfortunately, over this past few years, this pandemic has really made mental health essential to conversations in a way that they haven't been prior. And that's kind of something I want to visualize here, is that tends to be that for children, even for ourselves, we tend to absorb stress differently from children in particular, because as children are still growing, they're still developing. Particular stress, usually a more intense stress, like a toxic stress, can leave children particularly vulnerable. And it can make them have difficulties not only learning how to self-regulate, how to manage their emotions, but it can increase risks for issues such as depression, anxiety, and which can also in turn create further risks for interactions and relationships, even health issues down the line. And part of PIP's program, part of a lot of other Jewish Board programs that I'll really cover a lot of things that are address central stressors for teens that often sometimes don't have the proper resources and support necessary to really resolve them in a meaningful way, or process them or give space to them. So it's great that for Jewish Board, through the PIP programs and through some of our other services, can offer a confidential, non-judgmental space for kids to really understand that their stressors, that their problems are valid and deserve hearing, being heard, and being being worked towards in terms of solutions. Something to prioritize, especially part of our conversations, is that right now a lot of services, a lot of mental health agencies across Staten Island are experiencing a lot of wait lists. Jewish Board is not exempt from that. We are all trying to navigate and try to find support as best as we can, especially because of the higher demand of services for children. So we know that also part of this is that suicidal ideation has been, especially over the past couple decades, has been a growing concern and a growing epidemic, and is currently the second leading cause of death among people aged 15 to 24 in the United States. So part of Jewish Board services covers what we consider this comprehensive ladder approach, almost like a boutique for services. So there might be some clinical interventions, there might be some case management, there might be additional family advocacy or crisis intervention that might be needed. And part of this whole wraparound is to give families and their children the best types of outcomes possible. Because mental health is not just only on an individual level, it has to also include often families as part of this process of mental health treatment. So for some of Jewish Board services, the one that I'll cover, and I'm going to have all these new flyers available for everybody also for sharing as to how to apply and how to access some of these services. I'll start first with just Children's Mobile Crisis. Mobile Crisis through New York City Well. We are Jewish Board is the main children's crisis intervention team on Staten Island. They are available to provide crisis de-escalation, provide assessments, often is complementary to other Jewish Board providers, to sometimes school systems. A lot of schools on the island do use Children's Mobile Crisis for interventions. And they often provide a secondary assessment. So we might, as a clinician through PIP, might do one assessment. We might have somebody check in at the home and do another assessment just to see how a child is doing. And they're very responsive. They usually arrive within 24 hours to provide that kind of crisis intervention and support. And part of this work is also they tend to provide aftercare plans. So it's not just doing a check-in and then leaving and then there's no contact. They'll do an ongoing a brief follow-up and so that they can ensure that a child or family is connected to the appropriate resources. Another service that we have is the Morris L. Black Counseling Center. That's located on 1765 South Avenue. It's an outpatient clinic, provides a variety of support through individual, group, family counseling, and therapy. Also is connected to psychiatric services. So this is where we tend to provide a lot of medication management. They now include also a health team with a registered family nurse. Currently at this time, and as I was saying before, just unfortunately Staten Island is currently over encumbered with a higher demand for treatment. At this time, the counseling center specifically is not taking outside referrals, they're taking internal referrals. So if Jewish Board, somebody is already connected to a service, they can still get connected to the counseling center. At this time, just the entire agency across the board just is not currently taking referrals, but they are working on that to try and open it up again. But they are starting something called the Youth Act Team, which is an on-site, especially for high-risk youth, ages 10 to 21, who are at risk of entering, let's say, a residential facility. They're providing alternatives for on-site clinical support especially for children that are experiencing psychiatric issues. So that's starting up in May, which is hopefully going to help alleviate some of the demand and provide an alternative route to some appropriate providers through the Jewish Board, beyond just like, let's say, the on-site clinic. We do have openings at the Children's Health Homes. So Children's Health Homes is part of that wraparound approach I was mentioning earlier. So somebody might be connected to counseling, but maybe they need access to, let's say, food services or food support. Or maybe not just a pantry, maybe they need advocacy. So maybe there's issues going on in school and they need a care coordinator to make sure that the school is doing whatever they can to get them the adequate support that they need, maybe an IEP, or maybe making sure that they're connected to a psychiatric evaluation or a psychological evaluation. Children's Health Homes has care managers that will provide support and almost kind of like an assistant to the family to ensure that those families are connected to what they need in order to support their child's mental health or their social needs or their physical needs or medical needs. In order to qualify, child or youth must be under the age of 21. So there is a cushion between 18 and 21 for services and resources, and has current Medicaid or be able to qualify for Medicaid, and has a chronic health, medical or mental health condition, which needs a doctor's care. Part of these services, and I actually originally came from health homes, is very comprehensive. The care managers are very responsive to the family's needs. Part of the benefit, especially for some older youth, is that they do get a say in their own care, and especially if they're over 18 and before 21, they can also make sure that they're having some of their own goals met, and making sure that their particular needs, beyond just maybe what their family might be looking for, can also be met. Another service that is in the process of being developed is our Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic. So SAMHSA had provided Jewish Board a 4-year grant, allowing Jewish Board to expand our services. So these are known as CCBHCs. So they're designed also to build on that whole person care, integrating some of the physical health needs with some mental health and substance use services. So it's in the process of being expanded on. We are looking for people to join the advisory board. So we do have information, I do have flyers. People would like to have a way of help shaping this and making sure that the community needs are heard. So we'll have, I'll have that supplied to everybody after this presentation. And with that said, does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Nick. That is a wealth of information to learn about what's available to students here on Staten Island. And congratulations on all the initiatives that the Jewish Board is working on and all the expansion with PIP. It's amazing. Any council members with questions for Nick? Feel free to unmute or raise your hand. I personally just want to say I've been lucky enough to use the Jewish Board Family Services for my own family, and it has been an immeasurable success for my children in my home, especially post-pandemic. I feel personally that the crisis post-pandemic for our children has been so exacerbated, and it has been underestimated the impact that COVID has had on our children. And I think having and knowing that these services are available for families whose children might be experiencing PTSD, anxiety, or depression, even aside from COVID trauma response, I think it's such an important thing to be sharing with the community. So thank you so much, Nick.
Absolutely. And is it okay if I'll just email all the flyers and information your way?
Absolutely, and we'll share it on our website. Are there any questions for Nick out in the audience? Any questions from our audience members regarding the Jewish Family Board services? The chat is full of love for your services, Nick. So
Of course.
Tanisha really appreciates you. Michelle Pelizzi needs your contact info.
Yes.
Teresa thanks you for your work.
I'll put it in the chat. Just right
Thank
now.
you. Ego also says thank you. He's going to share the information with his liaison schools. We're so lucky to have had you join us. Thank you for making the time for us this evening.
All right. No
And
problem.
thank you for highlighting the importance of mental counseling during Mental Counseling Awareness Month. So we're so happy to have you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Be well. Take care.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, Marie. Such an
Oh wait,
easy
should I
way
be?
to-
I'm sorry not to interrupt. Should I be no longer co-host, or is that gonna like?
Oh yeah, I'll take you off co-host. Don't worry.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
You too.
I'd love to now open up to our next item on our agenda, which is my president's report. Forgive me for anyone that was here to join us for the business meeting. Some of it will be repetitious. I wanted to let everyone know that the Office of School Wellness Programs, in partnership with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, is creating videos and resources to support parents and caregivers in having important, age-appropriate conversations with children of all ages about growing up, body changes, and human sexuality. If you are a parent, caregiver of a child in an NYC DOE public school, which is probably why you're joining us this evening, they are inviting you to an optional virtual group discussion on Tuesday, April 4th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. They're grateful for your honest feedback about what would be most useful for you, your child, and your family. If you're interested in joining the group, again, they want you to register immediately. That date is Tuesday, tomorrow, April 4th from 6 to 7:30, and Teresa will place the registration link in the chat. Also of note that Spanish interpretation will be available. I want to remind everyone that our CEC elections application period has closed, and there are 49 candidates running for a seat on the Community Education Council for 2023 to 2025, including many of the faces you see on our council this evening running for re-election. On Tuesday, April 4th, a really popular day apparently, they're going to hold our candidate forums where you'll be able to hear from candidates directly about why they would like to be the parent advocate to represent Staten Island. We would hope that you'll be able to join us. There is a link placed in the chat for joining that forum and more information regarding CEC elections processes and voting. We want to make sure that every family here knows that they should have all the guardians in their home registered with their own NICSA account, as every guardian has a vote regarding who sits on our Community Education Council. Your voice matters and every voice matters. So we want to be sure that your account is registered so that you can begin voting as of April 21st, all the way through May 9th. You can look through our CEC candidate profiles at nyc.schools.gov /elections 2023. And there's more information about how to access your NISCA account there as well at NYC Schools account. There's a further update to the October 24th state emergency declared by the mayor to address the COVID-19 pandemic. And that state of emergency has been extended through April 20th, 2023, which will allow us to continue holding our CEC meetings virtually. Our application window is currently open for anyone interested in running for the parent representative seat on the panel for education policy. This is the panel that decides on educational contracts throughout the city, and there needs to be a parent voice now that's legally mandated by Governor Hochul for every single district. And so there will be a parent member for Staten Island. We are currently lucky enough to have our previous CEC member, Chantel Cabrera, step into that role. And in addition, we also have our previous CEC president, Aaron Bogad, is the current panel for education policy representative for the borough president's office. The deadline to submit that application is April 15th, and you can find more information on the PEP at PEP Parent Applications at schools.nyc.gov. And again, that link will be placed in our chat. We're excited to share that offers for kindergarten programs are going to be released on Tuesday, April 4th, and middle school offers are going to be released on Tuesday, April 25th. Both offers will come after school hours, and you can check your offer that you have been given for your child at myschools.nyc. You can visit the Family Welcome Center here on Staten Island, located at the Petrides Educational Complex in Building A, or by calling 718-935-2009. There's an amazing DOE Minecraft Battle of the Boroughs challenge that's going to provide an opportunity for NYC DOE students to design safe, connected, resilient, and sustainable communities that move NYC forward without leaving anyone behind. The New York City Department of Education is partnering with Minecraft Education and C40's Reinventing Cities initiative to guide students in creating our future New York. Students will compete to create the most inclusive, future-ready city spaces by building on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, the city's One City 2050 strategic plan, and existing mayoral initiatives. The deadline to submit for that challenge is Friday, April 7th, and you can learn more at Battle of the Boroughs esports events, all from April through June. In reference to our counseling initiative for this month and awareness, the National Counseling on Aging in collaboration with the U.S. Administration for Community Living, the Health Resources and Services Administration, and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration is hosting their 6th annual Older Adult Mental Health Awareness Day Symposium on Thursday, May 11th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is an all-day virtual event. It's free and features several sessions on how to best meet the mental health needs of older adults. There's a link in the chat for you to find out more information on how to register and visit the event page. An update on our borough president. He was joined by Fresh Kills Park Administrator Mark Murphy and the Borough Parks Commissioner Linda Richardone in announcing the Fresh Kills Challenge, a 10K obstacle race that is going to take place on April 30th. This is serving as a replacement to our once pre-pandemic popular High Rock Challenge. As with the High Rock Challenge, this race is going to continue to honor NYPD Officer John Kelly, who was killed in the line of duty in 2000. I want to let everyone know the Staten Island Federation of PTAs is inviting you to their annual scholarship luncheon on Tuesday, June 6th at 10 a.m. at the Hilton Garden Inn. They would like you to RSVP on or before May 2nd. No money will be accepted at the door and no children are permitted other than the winners of the scholarships. And the event cost is $65 per person. You can make checks payable to the SIF Federation of PTAs, and you can RSVP and send the check to Pam Cupo at 15 Wheeling Avenue, Staten Island, New York, 10309. The UFT Parent Committee is meeting on April 4th from 4:30 to 5:30, and it's a virtual Zoom meeting. Teresa's going to place the link in the chat and a link to the flyer so that you can join the UFT tomorrow, again, April 4th from 4:30 to 5:30. The next thing I just want to discuss really, Marie has her hand raised. Marie, go right ahead.
Yeah, Lucia, I just wanted to say real quick that that meeting happened today, not tomorrow.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. And I will get you a flyer. The next meeting will be on the 25th.
Okay.
And it will be an in-person event, and I'll get, the meeting just ended before this one. So I'll have a flyer for you by tomorrow.
Marie, I feel terrible. That is the second time I have done that to you. I feel absolutely terrible. I'm so sorry.
Okay, Lucia, I know your heart, so I'm not insulted.
Thank you.
And it was a great meeting, right? We had some parents that are really excited to get to work for the students of our community. And I look forward to sharing some good reports with you and hopefully seeing you at the next meeting.
I can't wait. Thank you so much, Marie, for sharing. Okay, the last thing that I just want to talk about is a wonderful organization here on Staten Island called Everyone Eats. I had the pleasure of speaking with their executive director, Melissa Martino. This is a non-for-profit that opened a new storefront here on Staten Island in the New Dorp area. It has an open pantry with food services, housewares, and clothing for families in need. That organization is open Tuesdays through Fridays from 10 to 3 p.m. And you just have to call Melissa at 718-925-9056 to set up a time to shop if you know of family in need, or if you are so inclined, they are seeking donations for non-perishable food items and dry goods. For clothing, they request that the clothing that you donate be new or very, very gently used. And for housewares, they request no used toys or no books, but they are constantly in the effort of trying to lift up the people that are there to reach out for help. And so in that vein, when you are donating, they want you to keep in mind that they want people to feel good about what they're going home with. So if you would like to set up a donation or know of a family in need, we ask that you please share their Facebook page, which has information about the organization. In addition to that, this wonderful organization is also 2 times a month a partner with City Harvest and serves as a hub for fresh produce and actually delivers to 3 of our local community schools here on Staten Island. They arrange for deliveries at PS 21, PS 19, and PS 57. And so they're serving about 50 to 60 families in each of those schools and delivering fresh produce to them 2 times every month and ensuring that the food that they had needed during the pandemic, they did not want that to stop. And so they have expanded their hub to include those schools. So please spread the word. Everyone Eats is an amazing organization. And if you have the time to share some of your personal wealth, if you can, and donate, they're more than happy to accept donations. And that will conclude my president's report. I'd like to take it now to the district superintendent, Dr. Marion Wilson. Dr. Marion Wilson, take it away, please.
Good evening, Madam President. Wow, I just have to tell you and the entire CEC, thank you for such an informative meeting today. I'm taking notes, I'm taking screenshots. Poor Jessica's email and text are blowing up. Get this out on the app. Please share this. Oh my gosh. I'm just really impressed with the caliber of information that's presented. And just shout out to Jimmy as well. I texted him on the side as well. I said, Jimmy, your voice matters. And I thank you for always bringing conversations to us. And it's right. So I just appreciate just this forum. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you and all that you do for children and their families. So this was a very, very, not saying that all meetings are not informative, but tonight especially, we're in my blue, support of autism, but just thank you for just the thoughtfulness of presenting this to our families. So again, good evening, everyone. I know the time is getting late, even though we're moving in the most expeditious manner. I want to present you the state of the district. Why are we doing this now in April? What better time to do it than now? So I'll be sharing my screen. Please definitely, any questions or comments, please put it in the chat. I will not be going through every single slide in detail, but we are open to feedback. Any questions or wonderings, please do not hesitate to reach out to Jessica, Stacy, or someone on our team for further clarification. In this, you'll notice that we have our District 31 vision and mission statement that's always there. This presentation was presented to our principals in March. And basically, Jessica, is this the one for the CEC?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure, thank you. So it's the state of the district and it's entitled Changing the Narrative. Go ahead. So do we have it in presentation mode? Because this top part is cut off.
Sure, just give me 1 second.
Okay, no problem. So the chancellor's priority is about ensuring that all children learn to read, making sure students are safe, preparing them for post-secondary, making sure they have the services. Today, Christine Chavez and I had an interesting phone call with someone talking about how do we develop the genius in our children so when they leave our system, whether they go into a trade, entrepreneurship, getting a job, going to college? How do we bring out what's in them through emotional intelligence? So we're excited about continuing to push for more CTE programs. And as I shared with President Boylan, when we reach out to Central, we have the strongest middle school CTE pipeline than any other borough. And I'm so proud of that because we want to make sure students have opportunities and access to more programming and what they want to do. Part of my non-negotiables for our schools is that they should be encouraging students to talk about what they want to do when they grow older. The New York State Ed website has resources, even as young as kindergarten and first grade, for them to draw pictures about what they like, what they're interested in. We don't want to wait for college and career planning to happen after 11th grade and when they're ready to leave our system. All right, let's see. Okay, go ahead. Jessica? Okay, so Chance's priorities I was sharing earlier, all students learn to read well, all students are physically and emotionally safe, all students graduate college and career ready and have a strong plan, pathway to economic security, and redesigning the system to be more inclusive and responsive for parents and families, including having more families choose New York City schools. So that's just a broad stroke overview of some of the areas the Chancellor's office is focusing on. Our district goals and priorities are also aligned in the same manner. And I think just having these types of opportunities and engagement with all of you is just a testament to the last bullet. Next slide. So this is our theory of action. A lot of words. I'm going to give you the short, condensed cliff version of it. A theory of action is identifying areas that we want to grow in. And it helps to build coherence across our district in that I'm very clear on what the role of the superintendent will be doing, what principals should be doing, what teachers hopefully are doing, and then how it translates to student performance results. If you notice, I did not put state assessments because we want to make sure that students are not labeled or identified just by one test that they take. And some families may choose not to participate in that. Wanted to be very clear about the work that we're doing from the superintendent's team. We want to make sure we train principals around culturally responsive, sustaining education, social emotional learning, and understanding that MTSS, and I don't want you to get caught up in all the acronyms in the DOE as a parent, but a multi-tiered system of support is very much needed. Throughout tonight's presentation, you'll hear me reference academic data, but also social emotional data around safety, discipline, and suspensions that we have to change our approach. We know children and adults alike suffered a lot of trauma from the pandemic. Suspending kids and not getting changed behavior is not going to change our system. Our teachers are working so hard. Our principals are working so hard. Sometimes parents don't know where to go. And that's why it was so great to hear from both of the programs that presented this evening, that there is support out there for our children. And I was so, heartfelt the synergy in tonight's presentation with what I'm going to share with you. Should be getting a basic of what I want to learn. I love it. Frank, we're always on the same page. Love it. Thank you. So thinking about the team belief. So we had my new team. I start off with like 7 people, and with the transition with the new chancellor and mayor, I now have a team of almost 40 individuals, which makes sense. So the whole district team comprises of student services, English language learners department, the special ed division led by our director of special ed, who's on tonight, Ms. Darlene Degremont. Facilities, I think that's about it, right? Jessica and Stacy, of course, and my administrative team. So we went on a retreat just to get on the same page about the work that we're doing. And for me, it's about impact. And I say this unapologetically. If we're working in education, we work in service of children, schools, and their families. So it has to be about how is the work that we're doing helping students get better, teachers improving, and supporting families. And that will always be my non-negotiable. So I just highlighted some of the key phrases that through our conversations in our beginning of year retreat and our mid-year retreat that we came up with. And I wanted to keep it very light and simple, but I think things that you can definitely relate to. Transparent communication will help to build trust. There's no conversation that you can't have with us and ask those tough questions. It's okay. We value it, we appreciate it, and it's going to help us in our longstanding relationship because of everything that we do. It's about children first. It's about cultivating the success of the whole child, making sure that children experience success while in our schools, fostering respect, understanding, and trust in our community, because our stakeholders need to feel respected, heard, and valued. And it couldn't be more synergist when I heard this evening just speaking about even the text that we're sharing. This is something that's important to us. Families should feel that they can come to the table. We may not always agree, but they're heard, they're valued, and they're respected. All children are capable of learning. They learn at their own pace, but that's something that I believe in, and the team of people that work with me should believe the same as well. So whether they speak another language, they have an IEP, it's utmost important that we support our students. Multiple sources of data should include perspectives of diverse stakeholders. So making sure that even students understand the data that we're using. When we're setting goals, children should be at the table. They should know. When I go to schools and I visit, we're always asking the question, do you know what you have to work on in reading? And if a child says, read more, read faster, yeah, that's important. But we want to know specifically, what is it about reading that's causing you to struggle? What is it about math you need to work on? So getting specific with data within reason is an important part of our process as well. And lastly, we must have a growth mindset. We can't say, oh, Sally, because you're a girl, you can't do math. Oh, Johnny, you shouldn't really be in a culinary program because boys don't do that. It's about having a growth mindset, about not putting limitations on our children or even plaguing them with stereotypes. It's about being open, listening to them, and supporting them in whatever they decide to do. Next slide. So MTSS, this is his own workshop. I'm not going to go through much with this, but I know Lou Brucci, he's heading up our strategic partnership division. He put together a great presentation with our AAS coordinators. We'll make sure we get that to the CEC and also push it out to our parents. For purposes of tonight, I'll just give a quick high-level overview. MTSS is a framework to support. So I want you to visualize this. Visualize a triangle that's cut into thirds. The bottom third is green. That's 100% of the children that's getting this intervention. So whatever reading program, math program, positive behavior support, or response to supporting students with behavior, everyone gets it. No one's excluded. So that's 100% of the students. But maybe there's some students that need a little extra help. Maybe they're 6 months behind, a year behind in reading or even in math. And they may need to benefit from a small group, either push-in or pull-out model. Same thing for behavior. Maybe the incentives don't really work for them, but they need a mentor. They need to go somewhere else at lunch to talk about making good decisions and making good behavior choices. But then you have your tier 3. So the bottom was green. The middle is yellow, and you get to the top is red. So if you ever hear educator talk about tier 3 interventions, it's about students needing extra one-on-one support. Maybe they're 2 years behind in reading. Maybe their behavior is causing a disruption to themselves and to others, and they need some really strategic supports. What's the great part about MTSS is about educators using the data to make informed decisions, but it's also about monitoring the intervention. If you're doing something and it's not working, you need to stop doing it. So if you remember back to my theory of action, it's about making sure that our administrators are better trained in MTSS, a multi-tiered system of support, but it's also supporting them so they know when tier 2 isn't working, tier 3 has to be kicked in before we make the referrals to special ed. That's basically MTSS in a nutshell, but we'll make sure to send you more information so you can learn about it in a parent-friendly facing manner. Next slide. So here are new state accountability designations. So I know the screen is a little small. You should have received a letter from your school, your home school where your children attend. Go back. They changed the name from Good Standing to Local Support and Improvement. I know some parents were getting nervous, like, oh, what does this mean? It just means that the state changed the naming of it, but your school is still in good standing. So 65 of our 69 schools that use this accountability measure are doing well, which is great, great statistics. But we do have some other schools that are designated as a targeted support and improvement plan. This means that one area of their student subgroup population did not make the needed progress. Now, remember, these assessments are not just about New York City performance, it's about New York State. There's no newly identified TSI schools, but shout out to kudos to Principal Nancy Storms from PS44 that was removed from the TSI list and is now considered a local support and improvement school. Great job, team. Additional targeted support improvement schools, newly identified, not newly re-identified, IS 49 for Black and African American subgroup population that did not perform well on the state assessment for the 2021-22 school year. Newly identified CSI schools, that's comprehensive support and improvement schools. It's based on all of the students' performance. These are the lowest rated schools in all of New York. So if you think about a norm referenced assessment, it looks like what should a normal third grader perform on a test? What should a normal fifth grader perform on a test? And I'm just giving examples. And when they sorted all the schools from Buffalo to Albany to Schenectady to Long Island and New York City, they ranked all the schools basically in order, and designations for CSI school, you're in the bottom 5 to 10% of low performance. It comes with additional money and accountability, but it's just we have to wrap our arms around these schools and continue to support them and make sure they have rigorous instruction, the supports they need for the principals and their teachers. So our newly identified schools are PS20, PS78, and PS31 was re-identified as well. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the team and we can go more in depth. Next slide. So the New York City Department of Ed has a diversity and inclusion policy. I'm not going to read it to you, and that blue font is really hurting my eyes. I apologize. But one of the things that's been coming up this evening is about valuing the experience, perspective, and contributions of all employees, applicants, students, and their families. We want to make sure that we respect diverse backgrounds and ideas to help us reach academic excellence. One of the things is making sure that we pay attention to diversity and inclusion. So diversity can mention race, ethnicity, cultural backgrounds, even disabilities, and thinking about how do we make sure that all of those with our diversity and the rich and robustness of where we're coming from, they feel included and a sense of belonging. So this is something very important to District 31, and I just wanted to give you that excerpt from the DOE website. Next slide. So what does it mean to be culturally responsive? So you'll see it, CRSE. What does that mean? What it means is thinking about diversity in hiring, making sure that we have applicants from inside and outside of the district to make sure that they're working and growing in our schools. Sometimes Staten Island is considered the forgotten borough, but it's also considered a borough that if you don't work or live here or know someone, you can't get a job. And that's not true. The beauty of our island is that we're open to all. And there's so many people coming in and they want to be a part of the great things happening in all of our schools. So we're making sure that we find leaders that are the right fit. What I'm most proud of in my superintendency is having shared decision-making. If you remember when I first started, it was about having those meetings with the CEC, with parents, having small focus groups. Even when I had to reapply, it's about listening to the perspective of others and hearing what's needed from the children to the adults. So when we think about diversity in hiring, it's really thinking about how are we making sure that who's in front of our children, from teachers to administrators, reflects some of our student population. It means equity in action. What is equity? Equity is giving kids what they need in order to be successful. So if they need a scaffold, meaning a graphic organizers, or maybe color-coded materials, because that's how their brain works when they're learning, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure we have curriculum materials that represent a diversity of information and perspective so all of our students have access. It's about translating materials into the local languages of our students. It's about addressing, analyzing disproportionality data. And I'm going to go into that in a moment with some data that I'm going to share with you. It's about examining longitudinal data to disrupt patterns of inequity while fostering and adapting a more restorative approach to help with the trauma we talked about from the pandemic. It's about students having a voice and a seat at the table. BSAC is our Borough Student Advisory Council. Now, most districts in New York City have one for high school students, 11th and 12th grade. And I want to shout out Alan Lewin for doing such a phenomenal job of keeping it up and going during my tenure. But I've also opened it to middle school students as well, because they do have a lot to share. If you have a teenager in your house, trust me, they're very opinionated. But it's so wonderful to get their feedback. What our middle school students have been doing is, as I shared before, all schools Part of my non-negotiable is having a meditation or mindfulness room. Students in the middle school were going through and surveying their other colleagues, their peers, to see if it's actually working. I know IS-75, Ken Zapata, is on his third room. He's seeing a decrease in repeat offenders. He's seeing a decrease in students that are normally getting into those verbal tit-tats in the cafeteria. They're choosing to go to the meditation room instead of getting into fights or arguments or disagreements. We see that at IS-27. We see it at IS-2 in different places that are implementing it. PS-60, they have a remarkable room, and hearing the children talk about it, Jimmy, I know you've seen the space, almost looks like a spa. But when you're visiting your various schools or your children's schools, please check in with that, because our students are telling us that it's working. Is it perfect? It's not, but it is working. Lastly, thinking about supports for social emotional learning, and again, MTSS, we have to change our approach with dealing with disruptive student behaviors. Next slide. So again, just being transparent, state of the district, just so you know, shared decision-making, resumes they come in, they're collected. I have a superintendent's advisory group made up of 11 leaders across the district that help to inform all decision-making. So while I'm a hiring manager, all decisions do not stop with me, because I do have to send it to my supervisor to then make sure they endorse that appointment. But I make sure that I bring differing opinions and backgrounds to the table to help with decision-making. So far, it's been great. Just like with the C30 committee, is putting in that additional layer of scrutiny to make sure we have the right leader at the right time at the right school. So in my hiring since March 2021, I've hired 5 African-American principals, 5 white principals, and 2 Asian American. And you can see their names there of the people that I've hired through this for this past school year. Next slide. This is a lot to take in, so we're going to breathe for a moment. Now, this is a snapshot of, I think it was 2 weeks prior. This is not recent, but the snapshot shows you daily on a basis what I'm able to see. It shows the level of infraction. Now, level 5 is the highest, and that normally results in a superintendent suspension. And I know this is something that Jimmy is very passionate about. A superintendent suspension has nothing to do with Marion Wilson or any superintendent in New York City. It has the name superintendent suspension, but it's the highest form of discipline that a principal can issue to a child. And they don't need my permission for it. So there's an infraction code through the discipline book. And I just get the breakdown of it, level 4, all the way down to level 1 being like disruptive behavior, talking back, and there's different coding to it. So just wanted to just share that with you, looking at our overall attendance. And this is something that I'm trying to check on a daily basis just to monitor. So it shows we have 53,504 students. We lost about 1,100 students. When the Office of Enrollment did a deep dive, many of our families are leaving to go to actually New Jersey or out of state. Few are going to charter schools, but for the most part, Staten Island hasn't felt the large exodus of families compared to the rest of the city, which is great. At the bottom of your screen, the fall screener proficiency, that goes back to what I talked about when we said MTSS, multi-tiered system of support. And if you look at it, it shows reading and math at a glance. These screeners are given twice per year. It's in the fall and in the spring, and it should give us a gauge on which students need this extra support. Now, anything in the light shaded blue or dark blue, kids are doing pretty well. Red, that's severely below, they may need the extra support and intervention. And then the yellow may need that small group, as I spoke about before. I won't go too in depth, but I'm sure we'll be planning an MTSS workshop to go more in depth with you. The last number at the slide I want to show you as well is the 15.2% chronically absent. We want to make sure that the more students come to school, the more we can give them an education. But when they're out for more than 10 days, it causes a disruption to the educational process. So we're really trying to crack down on that. Shout out to Christine Laughlin and Steve Barbarino and the team for really trying to beef up supports for attendance. Next slide. Not fair to label that as such. Okay, Jimmy, I know you're going to call me, so I'll hear more about that. So school safety and climate dashboard. So this one, I'm going to take a breath before we look at it. So let me draw your attention to the top left-hand portion of the screen. That's the DESA results. Now, some people may not like DESA. Don't ask me what it stands for because I don't remember the technical name. But the DESA is the behavior or SEL screener. So the other one was reading and math. So you may have heard of iReady or MAP or the running records or Acadians. That's for reading. But for behavior, the DESA was supposed to be a way of teachers checking in with kids to kind of see where they are, where they fell. I'm proud to say that Staten Island has the second highest administration rate of DESA. So even though people did decide to opt out, we have 41,000 students who are still participating, and the results are only used to make sure we support children. Yes, you heard it from me, to support kids. Now, if you look at it, green means that this is a strength, and I can share the categories with you, like decision-making, social awareness, self-awareness, how they get along with others. Blue is typical for that range. So those just give you the numbers from pre-assessments, the post, and from last year as well. But the kids that are in need, that red column there, those kids need more. And we're not going to blame families. We're not going to blame anything, but we have a responsibility as educators to make sure that we're deliberate in helping kids make better choices. So many times the kids that are in the red are going to impact these numbers I'm going to show you here. So without getting too technical, and I know in sake of time, I see the time just going, at the top under enrollment, it shows you the different categories of students we have enrolled in our schools. If you notice towards the bottom under the green section for suspensions, there's some areas that kind of jump out at us. I would love some audience participation. Tell me some of the numbers you see in red, and I'll be more than happy to explain it to you, because I think sometimes it's better if you look and notice. Just take a moment to soak it in, and then I'll be more than happy. Don't worry about the incidents, because that's a lot. PY means previous year, CY means current year. Just look in the middle, the last row above the blue. Tell me what you see, and you can look back up to see, you know, the category, and tell me anything that jumps out at you. So you can either put it in the chat or come off mute, raise your hand, and I would love to just hear from maybe one or two people, please. Come on, don't be shy.
I know now's the chance. Go.
I'm giving you the data. Come on, people. I want to hear from you.
Well, I noticed right away that SWD, which is our students with special needs, yes?
Yes.
Is that a 2.7 change in suspension rates? It's increased, yes?
That means that you're 2 times more than likely, almost 3 times to be suspended. So if you look at the number of students with disabilities we have in relation to our total population, 2.7 is the algorithm that they came up with, that a student with the IEP is 2.7 times more likely at risk of being suspended.
And our Black students are 3.5 then times more likely to be suspended as well.
Exactly. Thank you. I see another comment, DM chat to me was 26.9% suspensions. Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
So if I'm reading this right, so it says, so this is the suspension rates or the suspensions amount. Is this for fiscal year or what is this?
Yes. Yep. This is so the time period that you see at the top there. So that time period from like, I think July, it's so small, like it's very hard for me to see. I apologize. Like
so
July,
the numbers between like white kids at 418 and Black kids at 572, it doesn't really, it's not that drastic, but yet the bottom numbers are. So can you explain the differences between the two?
That's a great question. So if you look, so let's start from the top. Remember, let's go back to the total number of students we have in the district. That's close to 54,000, let's call it there. We have 8,700 Black children. So they make up 11.2% of the total population of students in District 31. If you go down a little further, it gives you the actual number of students that were suspended. And then the relative risk, the number at the bottom you're looking at there, is how much time are they more likely to be suspended based on their relation to the total population. So 5,700 is not, well, we can call it not even close, but 10% of our population, but that they're being suspended at a higher rate than a white student. So we have 20,000 white students per se. their rate of suspension is at 0.5. And this is just something that, the dashboard is there for all superintendents to look at. So we're looking at it like, so where is that the disproportionality coming in? So yes, 418 compared to 572, the numbers are not great, but if you look at it in relation to the total amount, it's an alarming disproportionality data rate.
So the one thing that I always get a little feedback on when I bring up suspensions is, and I heard that there's data for it, but I really haven't seen true data on it, is that for the same infraction that Black students are suspended more for a same infraction as a white student. And I'm yet to see, I've seen data people give me but I don't want to sound, a different way, but like, I want to see it from a DOE perspective, not from another source.
Well, this is DOE.
No, I mean, like, as far as like fraction, as far as infraction. So in other words,
This graph is
Go ahead.
literally showing you that based on the percentage of students that there are, that Black students they're being suspended more frequently than their white student counterparts in any other
right.
way.
But the question is that comes up is that per infraction. So let's just say a fight, breaking it down as far as like, because from what I'm told from some people, and this is what they come after me at is, if there's a fight, a white student's not going to get suspended, a Black student is. And I haven't seen that data. That's what I'm saying. Like,
but this is the data though. So this is telling you that at the rate, the relative risk is an algorithm by Dr. Eddie Fergus. So even if you don't have it disaggregated, what I'm giving you, and this is why this has never been shown before, and now I'm sharing it. I got access to this, I want to say probably last month, probably right before the break or right after the winter break. And I felt it was important to share with parents in the community because I don't think they understand the approach. So I understand what you're asking. That's less important than why is it that let's look at students with disabilities. So Sean, I hear your question, that I'm not sure, but I definitely can make sure that we look into and get those answers to you. And I'd love to hear from you too, Ms. Esposito, in a moment about you disagree with the data. This is what's put into ORS. So what we notice is schools they're suspending, they're following the discipline code, whether we like it or we agree with it or not. The data is the data. So the algorithm is crunching all the numbers, pulling it together. This is something I just took a screenshot of from the DOE database that's sent to me. I have attendance, I have hiring, I have budget. But I decided to spend a little bit of time because, we are dealing with our schools, our principals, they're dealing with some really problematic behaviors. So I go back to highlighting the CEC bringing in the partners to help us because our school leaders need some help. We can't EDP kids all the time and call the police or, the ambulance. We have to figure out other ways of helping. So one of the things I think that I really agree with the data, I don't think we can agree or disagree with data. It is data. Thank you so much for saying that. It's data. We have to look at it. We have to think about how we approach it, how we think about it. If someone commits a crime, if someone commits an infraction, it doesn't matter what race you are, we have to address it. The concern is, are consequences different? That's some of the case study exploration that we're doing. There's mental models we can look at. So the purpose of bringing this data out this evening wasn't to get into, it was just really just to share it. And this is something at school levels that we're talking about, we're supporting, we're bringing people in. And that's why having partnerships like with Jewish Board, I'm glad they're on. I'm glad the borough president is on. I'm glad our local assembly people are on. This is a problem that we have to try to figure out and address. There's sometimes that maybe people not knowing is part of the issue. But if we keep suspending kids, but yet they're coming back and then tearing up the school after 17 days being out, that's not helping. So we have to think about the need for more counselors. When they're giving out or assigning counselors, does Staten Island get their fair share? That's something we need to think about. Do all schools have social workers? Go ahead, yes.
This is, I was going to say this is, looking at the data for like EMS transports, an increase of 31.8%, looking at suicide ideation going up 6.5%.
Yes.
It just keeps highlighting all the need for those mental health resources that we desperately need right now.
And that's why you had the people come on and speak today. So it's perfect timing that you had those speakers come on so that we can tap into. Our leaders are at their wits' end they try everything. They try incentives, they try trips, they try everything under the sun that's legal. Some kids that work for mentoring and others they don't. And what we're not going to do is we can't blame families and parents. We're still trying to figure out. We bring in experts from the field. So this data, and I'm glad it's starting a robust conversation, and I welcome it because part of my work and having a PhD is about looking at data qualitative and quantitatively. So this data conversation is much needed. I can't go in depth because we have limited time on the CEC, but I welcome this conversation and maybe, putting our heads together and trying to come up, how can we better support children, but also schools who are dealing with this? Ms. Caputo?
Yes, Dr. Wilson, just one thing. With the SWD, does that factor in the MDRs?
Yeah, that great point that I did not even touch on. Yes, and if Darlene wanted to come off mute and say anything, Darlene, I don't want to put you on the spot. So MDR, for those of you who are not part of the DOE, is a manifestation of disability review that's triggered automatically when a child who has an IEP is suspended. Darlene, are you available to come off mute?
I am. Good evening, but my camera's acting up, so I apologize if you can't see me. But yes, that is a process that we hold true, and we are fine-tuning the integrity of that process in our schools as we speak. We continue to do that. So every time a child has been suspended who has an IEP, we go through first identifying if there's a pattern. So we look at the number of days of suspension that is being proposed. We then sometimes will not even wait for the suspension reporting system to cue us to do an MDR. As a best practice, proactively, we would engage school teams to hold that review, because once we're talking about 5 days plus, we want to take a look at the IEP, the present level of performance. We want to look at the social behaviors that are identified in the IEP to state whether or not Johnny often gets violent when triggered by this. We look at for those behaviors in the IEP to make sure that those behaviors are not a direct result of the child's disability profile. Once we've identified that it is, we would call the team to come together and conduct an MDR, which is a manifestation determination review, to deem that these behaviors are consistent with the child's profile when you refer to the specific disability classification. At that time, they can take the result outcome, they can leave it on file, because the system, sometimes the reporting system for suspension would probably wait for the child to be suspended 10 days or more to ask us to do a review. At times, we've done that once we identify a pattern of 5 or more days. So yes, that has been done. We're fine-tuning that process right now. We're asking teams to collectively review IEPs and talk about these infractions. And we're asking that the families are involved from the first conversation to the last conversation when it comes to that determination. So thank you for asking that question. That was a great question.
Thank you. It is a great question. And thinking about, I've been developing my rapport with the special ed advocates, and I find out when they come in advocating for a parent, a child who's suspended because they had impulse control issues. It's concerning, and you have that dispro rate is at 2.7. So Sean, I know you were asking for the breakdown. I don't have that, and I can definitely find out if they have the breakdown, but even just a student with disability, if you have an IEP and you're being suspended at a higher rate because of maybe something that you can't control, is something we have to look into. So nothing is ever judgmental. It's about having the conversation and thinking about how we're going to be proactive in addressing it. So I think, Lucia, Jimmy, this is definitely something we should have even just another conversation about it. I knew it was going to trigger responses. We knew that when I presented it to you last week, but this is great. Keep it coming, because then you can probably help us to shift. And I think, yes, when we have the suspension site on the island that, shout out to Lucia. She was not afraid to use her voice to say, listen, why are parents having to go across the bridge? We need a space. First, I was told no, it wasn't going to happen. I said, Lucia, we're having this meeting. Go ahead, go say something now. She spoke up, she said it, and it's happening. You may not see it right away, but delayed does not mean denied. She made it happen, and I was on an official call with Central. They're creating one. They're bringing it back because your president fought for it to happen. So I think part of that is going to help as well.
And listen, I have to give that shout out back to Daniela Caputo, who really pushed to say that that she highlighted it for our CEC meeting, that it was an issue that we needed to fight for as a CEC.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you. Can I just say one more thing?
Of course.
And then I promise I'll stop. I'll get off the
No, no.
suspensions. But one thing, Staten Island will still be the only borough that is not, I'll use the word self-governing their suspensions. We are still going to be under the Brooklyn umbrella. And I know this is something that's been discussed with the borough president. And he has some ideas, which Dr. Wilson, I'm sure you would agree with, that maybe the whole approach is wrong. And we need to have community groups and outreach and after school programs. And that's what should be addressed when these kids come in, and not just, I'm sorry, you're not coming to school for 14 days and stay home because you're not going to a site off Staten Island. And I don't know how that's going to happen until we get our own people. Know the Staten Island schools and the Staten Island people. And that's it. I get off the soapbox. But thank you.
No, I need you on that soapbox. I need you to have those conversations. I need you to bring those things up. And Daniela, whenever you're ready, reach out and let's chat. I totally agree. We heard we were going to have our own satellite person that's going to be assigned to us, but definitely Christine, Jessica, and Darlene are on the call, and Christine Lachlan as well. We're going to definitely escalate that, and we can reach out to Vito. He's been very supportive and he understands. Like, I can go on a soapbox with you with this, but I think this is just opening the conversation. And I think dealing with it from a pragmatic approach, looking at the data, is very important, because we have several schools in our district that their data mirrors what we're seeing here. Suspending troubled kids that are trauma impacted is not going to help. They just come back and they make the teachers' lives and the principal's life more troublesome. So we got to do something differently now with this whole system. And I know Jimmy will agree with that. He's been advocating from the moment I met him. And this is a dialogue that's going to continue to happen, and hopefully we'll see change. But if not, it's Staten Island. We're going to try to do something different. There's Project Pivot. We have these mentoring groups coming in. We're going to continue to keep trying to push it until we start seeing something change, because educators, if you're on the call and you work, you should not have to be in an environment where kids are being violent or disrespectful to you, or you cannot teach your lesson because it's a constant disruption. There's some people that, I'll save my soapbox. Next slide, please. I'll save it for another time. But thank you all so much, and definitely reach out to Jessica. So student perception survey. So students in 6 through 12 get to take a survey. You can see the school results. We have a district view that I look at. If you look at the bottom in this particular view, and this is just a snapshot, the survey is not completely closed yet, only 44% of our kids, of the 47,000 that took it, are feeling engaged. Now that's a problem. That's a problem, people. They feel that there's high pedagogical effectiveness, 71%. We were up, so we look at the positive, but I don't want to just focus on the positive areas that we're doing pretty well in. We can always do better. Rigorous expectations, classroom climate. Kids do not feel engaged in classrooms. And this is not all the teachers' fault. We have to figure out ways to support them. We have to figure out, why are kids not coming in engaged? And this is from a student perspective, why do students feel there isn't a shared and inclusive curriculum? That's why the need for culturally responsive, so kids can see themselves in text and they can be engaged in criticality and intellectualism in lessons when they're talking about. We're not talking about CRT. CRT is taught in law schools. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm speaking about the nuanced approach through Dr. Goldie's model that we've embraced in District 31 around looking at different ways that we can support children. Last week, Christine and I had the most amazing meeting with someone from the Italian Consulate General. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw the post. Thinking about, how do we bring back some of those works around looking at Italian literature, art, music, even the food, and establishing an exchange program. Yes, this superintendent from the Bronx want to make sure that we bring in and have an appreciation for Italian American heritage. We're starting it off at PS 36. IS7 jumped on board in Tottenville. Just finding out that Tottenville, I think, has 8 Italian teachers. Barbara Belafato, PS36 was so excited, but we're not keeping it just to the South Shore because we realize PS65 has a partnership with Casa Belvedere and exposing their children too. So we're thinking outside the box. We have to remember shared and inclusive curriculum means including everyone. Some people sometimes try to drill it down to the construct of race, but it's really just understanding and appreciating windows, mirrors, and doors. Windows, can I see out and see others? Mirror, looking and seeing myself in a text, whether I have a wheelchair, I'm using a walker, I may be on the spectrum and I learn differently, but I'm not different from anyone else. And doors for opportunity, for growth. So again, just data, just throwing it out there. Next one. Almost finished. So mid-year screening. So basically, if you're reading this, the results are about half of our kids are where they should be performing academically for reading. That's based on the mid-year performance. This does not indicate state performance for the test coming up, but it really just gives us insight. We're looking into to work with schools that if only half of your kids are showing proficiency in reading, what can we do to support? Next slide. Same thing with math. If you look at it, beginning of the year, BOY means beginning of the year, 54%, MOY, 49%. There was a slight decrease, but our target for the end of the year is 59%. Will we meet our target? We don't know, but definitely we're offering more tiered professional learning to give schools what they need. Our lighthouse schools include like places like PS9 that even with special classes, they're doing phenomenal. 90-something% of their children, I don't have the exact number, like 93 or 94% of their kids are performing and exceeding standards on a state exam. We have to harness those places. We have to go to PS60, PS5 and see what they're doing. And that's the work that we're doing as a district to make sure all students succeed and we just don't have pockets of excellence. Next slide. Attendance, we're pretty much on par where we should be for attendance year to date. Just wanted to share that with you. Chronic absenteeism, we're always comparing ourselves to the city and seeing where we fall. But the more we have our kids in school, the better for everyone. Next slide. Hats off to Eagles going to Italy. Yes, I'm so excited. Yes, we're going to include Italy when I saw that. And Curtis also has an exchange program to Italy as well. Definitely. I love the fact. Shout out to Principal Cameron as well. I left this slide in, President Boylan, because I think it's important that when we compare ourselves to the rest of the city, to know the growth under the leadership of Darlene Degremont. A lot of our special needs students were not getting their services, and not because schools were not trying. Sometimes it could be lack of the proper specialized teacher, the license area, maybe the supports. I am proud to say to our community listening tonight, when I started in 2021, we were at 54%. Darlene, correct me if I'm wrong. 54%. And we jumped up to how much, Darlene? 54 to
79% linking.
Linking programmage means making sure that in the system it's coded properly for what kids are getting. I'm very serious about this. So if our children with IEPs, they deserve services, it's about supporting Darlene advocating, and she and her team going in, working shoulder to shoulder with school administrators and with teachers. So 85% of our students are fully receiving their special ed services. May not seem like a lot to you, but of my children, yes, it's a lot compared to in the past. So I'm very proud of that. And if you look at our growth and improvement compared to the rest of the city, we're the last bar there in that rust color. So I'm just completely proud of that. So shout out to all team members. Next slide. Suicide ideation has gone up exponentially. So I'll give you a moment just to digest that. And as our partners, Nick can tell you, and other people, Nick from the Jewish Board, you have to wait to get services. Our kids are crying out for help. And there's such a wait list. That's why having these partnerships and these programs, in more of our schools to support them, it's so critical and so important. I have the team looking at optimistic thinking from the DESA screener to also looking at suicide ideation. How do we help get ahead of it? Let's not wait for a child to have an ideation. Why don't we look ahead and see who doesn't think about the future being positive? Even young kids in Staten Island, like, that's unfortunate that the data we have, we're leading the city in some of these ideations. Not good. Next slide. It's painful. I agree with you, Ms. Newman. It is really painful. That's the end of it. All right, so that will conclude my presentation. Just a lot of, there's a lot of great things, but I just felt it was important to bring us numbers, not to overwhelm you, but definitely having that pragmatic conversation centered around the data. And reach out to Jessica. If you have other data sets, if I can get my hands on it, I definitely would love to explore deeper with you. But really looking at the data, grounding our conversations in data will really take the pulse of the district and what's happening, the initiatives that I'm pushing. I'm trying to help people look at multiple sources of data to make decisions that are impacting our children and our youth. Follow us on the app. You'll get up-to-date information from what's happening. I know I gave you a lot tonight, so drop your comments in the chat. Thank you so much for all you do for our children. Thank you for your partnership, and thank you for this opportunity for allowing me to lead in very tough times, but we're pushing together. And just so you know, as the lead learner in our district, I make sure it's my business to go out there to get professional development, learn, and bring the best to our schools so they can be the best for your children, our children. I call them my children because I am the custodial parent. When you're not around, I feel responsible for all kids. So from 3K to 12th grade, our 4 E's in this district that I am unapologetic about, when they leave our system, they should be employed, enrolled, enlisted, and the last E Christine just added on was empowered. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson, for that super informative presentation. We'll be able to share that presentation as well with our CEC council members. And again, we'll follow up in future. After this meeting, I'll do some housekeeping and we'll set up those meetings so that way we can get a little bit more granular information on data if it's possible. Okay, I'd love to move to any committee reports, any council members with committee reports they'd like to share. All right, no committee reports are, I do want to share that Roxanne is moving forward in our parent engagement. She's not able to join us tonight because she is in process of observing Ramadan. And so we will discuss more about what parent engagement is going to look out with a future town hall with the superintendent. So keep your eyes posted for that. We'll have flyers going out and information to our families once that's all set up. We're also looking at a family fun day for June. So keep your eyes posted for that, hosted by CEC in partnership with the district. We're really excited to offer a family fun day for families for free to come and enjoy the warm sunshine and lots of fun family games and blow ups and all sorts of stuff, and lots of information from our community-based organizations. So keep tuned for that. I'm going to move to public speaking. I only had one person sign up on prior to tonight's meeting, and her name, I want to just pull it, was Belinda Dixon. I don't know if Belinda is on. CEC members, please just give me a moment to see. I don't see her here. And Teresa, anybody sign up on our link that you can see?
Let me take a look. Hang on.
No problem. Thank you so much. In the meantime, I just want to, as Teresa is looking, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody who joined us this evening. I want to thank Amanda Hicks from FACE. She is our FACE liaison. I want to say a welcome to Denise Pacquiao from Michael Riley's office. Lisa Augustine is here from the President's Council President for elementary and middle schools. We have Marie Rodriguez and Sean Ramos from the UFT here. Christopher Pucciarelli is here from Lanza's office. Of course, the administrative team for the district, Christine Lachlan, Christine Chavez. I have Jessica here with us tonight, Jessica Rivera, our family leadership coordinator. So we're so excited for all of you to join us. I have Melissa Paradis here from Title I. I can't thank you all enough for joining us this evening. Teresa, anybody sign up?
I'm not able to see that part. I'm only able to see, like, to fill it out. I can't see the registration pieces.
I'm so sorry to keep everybody waiting. Please bear with me for just a moment with your patience, and I'll just double check that there's no one signed up, or that there is someone signed up, I should say. All right. Technology. Okay, there are no responses to sign up for speakers this evening. And so I'd like to just thank everybody for coming tonight and spending some time with us. We hope we've given you some information that you can take home and that you can utilize with your families, your school organizations. We want to thank everybody for their hard work in joining us. I want to thank my council members. As always, you guys are an amazing team, and I'm so privileged to be able to sit with you month after month. I could not do this without any of you, and your input, your feedback, your perspective is always appreciated, loved, and shared with our community. I'd like to wish a good Passover, Ramadan Mubarak, and a happy Easter to all those celebrating. I don't know about anybody else, but I am desperately in need of the break that is coming. And so I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful, restful, beautiful break. And if that can close us out, I would love to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much. I need a second for that motion.
I second.
Thank you all. Thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Safe holidays to everybody. Thank you, thank you. And thank you again, Dr. Wilson, for sharing such important data with us all. We really appreciate the state of the district. It's so important for our families to share. Check us out on our website, www.cec31.org. If you missed this meeting, or if you have a friend that missed it and you'd like to share that information with them, the recording will be available in just a day or two on our website. So thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure to see all of your faces. We look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. It will be on May 1st. Again, our business meeting starts at 6:30 p.m. It is by Zoom invite, and there'll be a flyer distributed. And then our calendar meeting proceeds at 7 right afterwards. Thank you, and have a wonderful break, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Good night, everybody.